This is a webinar called Wellbeing in Academia, Support Systems and the Experiences of Early Career Researchers. And this is the first webinar we've actually done this year in the AuthorAid project. You know, we've always been aware that wellness and mental health amongst PhD students and young researchers is a topic that we've not discussed very often at AuthorAid. It's, of course, an important issue for all the members of our community. And in the current pandemic, it's an issue that's come more into focus. And so we feel this is a really good opportunity for us to link up with other friends and partners who are doing really good work in this area and share some ideas and advice for all of our communities. So we're very excited to link up here with some fantastic speakers today, as well as hear from some members of the AuthorAid community. Just to quickly say, unfortunately, one of our speakers, Petra Boynton, is unable to make it because she's not very well today. So apologies for that, but we've got plenty of other fantastic speakers who we're going to hand over to very shortly. Just to also say, this is the first webinar that AuthorAid's done this year, but we hope that this will lead not only to further exploration of this topic, but also further sessions where we can explore other neglected topics in academia, in global science and research. Do we have our housekeeping slide? Okay, so just a few quick housekeeping things. We are recording this session, so your participation here will indicate your consent for the recording. You don't have to turn on your camera. You can have your camera off if you like. If you've got any technical issues, please put a message in the chat or fire off an email to authoraid@inas.info. And we're going to be muting everyone except for the speaker during this session. So please don't be offended if we mute you at any point. And please do raise your hand in the participants panel if you'd like to ask a question. We'll have a Q&A later. And please do put your questions and comments in the chat box so we can get to those in the Q&A, which is coming up later on. You can submit those at any time. So I'm now going to hand over to the moderator for this session. I'm going to stop speaking now. The moderator for this session is Dr. Zainab Yunisa Kaltungo. She is a plastic surgeon in Gombe, northern Nigeria, and she's also one of our AuthorAid stewards and facilitators and leads our biomedical and healthcare journal club. Over to you, Zainab.
Thank you, Andy. Welcome our panelists, participants, and our AuthorAid community to this webinar titled Wellbeing in Academia, Support Systems and the Experiences of Early Career Researchers. Brief run through of our agenda. First, I'll tell us why we're holding this. Then I'll do a brief bio of our speakers. We have two key speakers. Unfortunately, the third speaker can't make it. Then we have contributions from our AuthorAid community. There are 4 of them, and they have 5 minutes each. We'll do a Q&A for 35 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. So why are we doing this today? Let me give you some scary stats before the pandemic. In the UK, for example, a recent study found that 43% of academic staff exhibited symptoms of at least a mild mental disorder. This is nearly twice the figures in the general population. Then Liu, in his study in 2019, surveyed doctoral students in China and found that 41.2% demonstrated symptoms of mild depression, 23.7% mild to moderate, 20% moderate to severe anxiety symptoms. In 2019, the journal Nature ran a global annual survey for doctoral students featuring a question exploring mental health. From the over 6,000 respondents, 36% said they had sought for help for anxiety or depression related to their PhD studies. Now we don't have much figures from Africa and South Asia, but we know from the AuthorAid community we serve that the challenge is just as bad or worse for researchers in the global South. Throw COVID into this equation, and then you begin to understand how important this session is. So our keynote speakers we'll be starting with VSA Africa, Natasia Mwanigwa and Natasha Lazarevich. They're co-founders of the Visibility STEM Africa VSA. VSA is an initiative which aims to create an equitable, empowering, and inclusive global network which supports and prepares Africans in STEM for a changing world that requires creative and global solutions. Nathesia and Natasha are both PhD researchers in STEM. Nathesia is a neurobiologist at the University of Luxembourg, and Natasha is a digital health technologist at the University of Sydney. With them, we'll be exploring VSA's mental health campaign and discussing the importance of building a community and support systems, especially as Africans in STEM. Next, we take Abimbola Abdurrahman Lekki. She's co-admin at Doing a PhD in Africa, DAPIA, and a PhD student at the University of South Africa. DAPIA is a hub network and safe place for early career doctoral scholars working in Africa. It is driven by the needs and interests of its community, sharing information on courses and scholarships, collating knowledge sources, enhancing professional skills, and providing a platform for peer support and collaborations. She will take us through the work of DAPIA, including the support forums. From our author-aid community, we have Professor Richard Grace, Associate Dean, Macquarie University, Sydney, Australia. He will tell us about the Macquarie University Allied Network. Next, we take Dr. Dilshani Desanayanke. She's from the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. Dilshani will take us on supporting researchers at the institutional level. Buna Bandari is a current PhD student at the University of South Wales, Australia, and we share experience of doing a PhD abroad. Lastly, we'll take Aurelia Monene. She's the founder of AIDA Africa that supports researchers. She will touch on the experiences and voices from her organization. Thank you very much. So now we'll take Natasha. Natasha?
Thanks so much for the intro. Awesome. I'll just share my screen. It's saying I can't share my, it's working now. Thanks so much. One moment. Awesome. So we're from Visibility STEM Africa, and we're here to say that you're not alone and talk about the importance of building community and support systems as an African in STEM. So just to start, we'd like to say a little bit about ourselves. So Tasha, can you get us started on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you so much, author-aid, for this opportunity. So my name is Natasha, and as was already said, I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Luxembourg, where I study Parkinson's disease. I'm a neurobiologist, and I'm originally from Zimbabwe, but I spent the majority of my childhood in Botswana. And Natasha, maybe you can now give a bit of a background about yourself.
Awesome. So, hey, I'm also Natasha. So you can imagine sometimes it's a bit confusing because we're both Natashas and often we refer to each other as just Tashas to make it a little bit easier. I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Sydney, and I'm a digital health technologist. And I also grew up in Botswana, and I also lived there 10 years, which is super cool. And we decided to start Visibility STEM Africa together. And just on a side note, a really cool thing is we started this initiative actually around the same time last year, and we have not yet met in person. How crazy is that? So pretty exciting. Just to get started, we'd like to tell you a little bit about what Visibility STEM Africa is. So to talk about our vision, is to create an equitable, empowering, and inclusive global network which supports and prepares Africans in STEM for a changing world that requires creative global solutions. Now, the thing is, for a person to be creative, to design global solutions to very difficult issues, they need to look after their mental health. And as an initiative, we're quite passionate about mental health and promoting it, especially in 2020 and especially to African communities, as it's an issue that's not as openly talked about, unfortunately, in African communities, and in particular, academic communities. There seems to be this notion that the more you do, the more sleep deprived you are, the better you are. And often that is just not the case. So to get started, let us step into the shoes of someone experiencing mental health issues to get a better appreciation of some of the barriers they might face. So let's look at this person here. They're facing some mental health issues. So they want to go and seek some help, but mental health as a topic is often stigmatized and not talked about. Now, another issue that they may face is insufficient mental health facilities and psychologists. Now, to just give a little bit of stats about that, the African region has 1 to 4 mental health workers per 100,000 people. Now that's compared to the global average of 9 per 100,000. There's also a lower number of psychiatrists, hospital beds for mental health patients, and outpatient clinics. And that just means that there are even lower people actually seeking help. So an example is in Sierra Leone, the proportion of those in need who get, I guess, go untreated because of mental health issues is about 98.8%. Now that's a large proportion of the population. Now, if a person does end up seeking help, it can be quite costly. And another thing that illustrates the, I guess, the hugest problem is the lack of mental health research in Africa. And that just means it's even more difficult to identify solutions to a lot of these issues. And then another issue when it comes to, I guess, government policy is a lack of specific mental health policies. So let's look at a bit some other stats. So 24% of countries that reported to the WHO's 2014 Mental Health Atlas survey did not have or have not implemented standalone mental health policies. In Africa, about 46% of countries do not have standalone mental health policies. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of issues that still need to be addressed, but we as an initiative wanted to start somewhere to help a person like this in this predicament. And the issues we wanted to start to address is this one right here. And we want to tell you a little bit more about how we started addressing this, and Tasha will get started on that.
Thank you so much, Nata. So indeed, we took some time a few months ago to think how can we really empower our community and support them in terms of their mental well-being. And we believe that building a community and letting people know that they're not alone is a powerful way of supporting people's mental health and emotional well-being, as well as community resilience. And this is something that has been backed by research, that building a community and feeling a part of a community will make your mental health better in a sense. And so what we actually did is we started the hashtag mental health VSA campaign. And what we did is we went into our community and we reached out to members of our community and we asked them to share what does mental health actually mean to them in order to start to stimulate dialogue and to get people to start talking about mental health candidly. And it was such an interesting and amazing experience to get to hear all these different Africans sharing their perspectives on mental health. And we have a nice example of a video from one of our community members that I would like to share with you.
What does mental health mean to me? Mental health affects our self-esteem, our self-consciousness, our actions, our reactions. And an aspect of it that I deal with more often is self-esteem. To me, positive mental health is being okay with not being perfect, believing in myself and not waiting for validation from friends or from social media followers. The ability to just cope with work and social stress without sinking to a place where I feel inadequate or that I don't fit in. It's also the ability to continue this interview without hiding my imperfections or trying to present what I think is my best facial appearance to you, because I'm confident in the way that I was made. Acceptance, contentment, self-esteem. That's a big part of what mental health
connection is unstable.
Yeah, so I think that gives you a bit of an impression of some of the videos we got. They were really powerful and it was so nice to just see people sharing and just exposing themselves in such a vulnerable way. So we also had this discussion on Twitter and we got so many responses where we asked the same question and people had so much to share, different perspectives, especially in the context of 2020, which has been a really difficult year for not only Africans in STEM, but for everyone. I think we can all agree. And so these are just some examples of some of the responses we got. And just to highlight one of them from Dr. Ramalapa, she talked about how mental health to her means being able to feel everyday life, handle responsibilities, maintain relationships, and contribute to the community without taking it away from herself. And I think this was really powerful and just so insightful, and seeing Africans particularly Black people as well, speaking about this, because I think in the Black community, it's even worse, these mental health conditions, it was really interesting to see. So yeah, so that was the campaign that we did this year, and we are really excited to continue doing this work on a bigger scale next year. And one of the main focuses of Visibility STEM has been growing our community, and that has been a great thing we've been able to do in the past year. For example, we now have a Slack community that has over 150 members. Across our social media, we have hundreds of African systems that are now part of what we consider the VSA community. And we would love for all of you to be part of our community, whether you are an African STEM or not. We want everybody to be involved because I think there's so much work to be done, and we believe in the power of working together. So with that, we would also like to shamelessly plug a conference that we'll be hosting in 3 weeks actually. So we have our first annual conference, the STEM for Us Bias Conference, which is also going to be a way to keep growing our community. We have a very excellent lineup of speakers, panel discussions, as well as networking opportunities. So if you're interested in attending that, you can check out our social media platforms, and I think we'll also just drop our social media in the chat at some point so you can get in touch. And with that, we'd really like to thank you for this opportunity, for the time to share the work that we're doing. We hope that you guys will check out Visibility STEM Africa and find ways you can get involved. And yeah, we are really looking forward to the discussion so we can talk more about what we've been doing in our vision for Visibility STEM and also for empowering people in mental health. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, VSA, Natasha, and Natizia, Tasha. So next we take Abimbola. Abimbola, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. My name is Abimbola. I'm a public sector specialist. I'm doing my doctoral studies at the University of South Africa, focusing on tax compliance, voluntary tax payments, and tax morale. Okay. I thank Author8 for this opportunity, and I think that for me, it's very key. When I started my studies, the enthusiasm and the zeal I felt at the beginning slowly fizzled out, and I could not explain it really. Nobody had told me the long hours of research would tell on me, but they started to do, and I used to feel as if, and yes, 2020 has been a difficult year for everyone world over. So all those working from home and trying not to just think became very personal for me. So thankfully, by being online, connecting with other people, I became part of doing a PhD in Africa. Now, I think for us, what's most key is for doctoral students or anybody going through any kind of doctoral study, it's hard, rigorous work. So you need the support. You need to speak up, you need to voice out, and you need to share whatever you're going through that seems so difficult. Thankfully, doing a PhD in Africa has been able to try and fill some of that gap. So like Dr. Zainab said earlier, we're just a safe space. We continue to try and improve. Space for doctoral researchers. We want you to be able to share a lot. I'm glad that I'm part of it because having also this access to where to talk to our members to go if you need help, support, specialized care, individualized coaching, anything like that, somewhere for them to go. We're glad to be able to share that. So like I said, part of the activities that we do on doing a PhD in Africa, we have a bi-monthly, weekly forum. So it's us in a group speaking about any issues that affect you as a PhD student. Funding also top sets, stress top sets. Sometimes it's difficult supervision. Sometimes it's like you're just tired and you want to stop doing the whole thing or you want to give up. So the bi-monthly forums are, like you said, bi-monthly, and we have a whole lot of members joining each time we have one. We also have mentoring programs. So what we do is we pair our later researchers to the earlier ones to like show them the way, give them a stepping stone, have been where you are right now. It's not easy, yes, but you can overcome this. That is so key. Support everywhere is so crucial and fundamental, and we hope to be able to continue to give that. We also have our PhD life stories for those that have actually successfully crossed the burden, people that have actually defended. So we do an interview, they tell us all about their challenges till the actual point of defense and how it all went. And finally, you have your PhD, what's next? So they also want to share their career path and how they think it can influence on other people. We're on all the social networks. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I can share the details. But I think for us, what is key and most important is that support is there and support is crucial. Also, something Natasha mentioned about, because we don't have the conversations about mental health enough in Africa. So a lot of people think it's okay to keep quiet and pretend that all is well. I'm not of that school of thought. I like to share it and just let it all out. So I've said to a lot of our members that, look, working from home, doing a PhD, things are not going as well as you planned. Please just open up. Speak to somebody else. Tell them what you think you are going through. You don't have to be lonely alone, and you don't have to suffer alone. There's a lot of help. So thank you for having me here. And we're hoping to more and more ideas about improving our community for our members. Okay then.
Abimbola.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Just a reminder to our participants that if you have a question, you can post it in the chat box. And then when we get to the Q&A session, you can raise your hand and then we'll call you to unmute yourself and ask your question. Now we'll go to our author aid community, starting with Professor Richard. Professor Richard, are you ready?
Thank you, Zainab, and good day, everyone. Josie, could you share my slides, please? It is good evening from where I'm sitting here. I'm in Sydney, Australia, where it's about to become summer, so it's getting warm. Right. I'm one of the Author Aid stewards. That's a group of about 8 or 10 more senior Author Aid community members, and we're supporting the community as such, and we're helping Andy and his team to set directions where possible. So when we talked about this well-being seminar, I suggested we might want to talk about something that's tangentially related, but quite important in this context as well, and that's how to deal with people who are not your standard heterosexual community members. At Macquarie University, like at many other universities in the Western world, we have a so-called ally network, where the aim here is, of course, to support our students and staff to live up to their potential. In many countries, particularly in Western countries, there are laws that prohibit against discrimination of people based on a variety of things, including their gender identity and sexual orientation. But of course, passing laws and the practical circumstances do not always line up. And I realize that in some countries, possibly also in some of the countries where our participants are based today, this is a taboo and perhaps even illegal. Nevertheless, if you're going to do a PhD overseas or you're traveling overseas, you're likely to encounter people from the non-standard communities, let's say. So at our university, we're committed to providing diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's the big overarching theme here. We want everyone on campus to feel safe and to as I said, live up to their expectations, to their promises. And so as a university, we provide services and support for staff and students who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and diverse genders and sexuality. And so we're trying to be as supportive as possible of them. Now, this slide is taken to some extent from the instructions that we received as allies. Allies in our network, this is part of the equity, diversity, and inclusion theme, are people who support the community in the sense that we want everyone to feel safe and free. It doesn't mean that we are members of the LGBT community. I am myself happily married, and so I'm not a member of that community, but I support my colleagues and my students if they, no matter where they're from. Josie, can you go to the next slide? That's not second slide, yes. So these are the instructions that we were given. What is an ally? An ally is a staff member or student who supports through professional development people from this community. Everyone is welcome and everyone forms part of the overall campus community. So we're staff or students. We provide a safe environment. We are here in case someone has issues that they want to talk about confidentially, and we will be able to direct them to the right resources on or off campus. We show leadership through being publicly supportive of sexual diversity, and we identify ourselves as allies. I have a sticker on my door that says I'm proud to be an ally. We work on increasing respect and inclusion of LGBT staff and students. At the university, we have special safe spaces for people who feel that they need them. We also try to be role models in non-discriminatory practices and language. As I said earlier, we followed professional development. During that professional development, we talked about the various terms in use for people from this particular community, and some of them are derogatory or demeaning. And I learned a few new terms myself while I did that training. That was only a few months ago. So I'm actually fairly new to the role, but I think it's important to support these colleagues and students. So where possible, we try to be open, inclusive, strive for equity, and provide information and guidance to those people who might request it. I think that's all I wanted to say about this. It's just a matter of being globally inclusive. I do this as a human being. As you saw in the program, I'm also one of the associate deans of my faculty. And so from a faculty leadership perspective, I feel it's important to do this as well. And as a senior academic at the university, that's another reason why I want to do this. Inclusivity, equity, and diversity is what this is all about. And so this is pretty much par for the course in many Western countries. But I thought when we talked about setting up this webinar, that it's actually important to address these issues. I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Richard. Next, we'll take Dilshani. Dilshani?
Hello. Hi, I'm Dilshani Disanakar from the University of Colombo, Sri Lanka. I'll try to share my screen, see whether it works. Yes, so I'm a medical doctor, a neuroscientist, and I'm talking today as the founder director of the Research Promotion and Facilitation Center that we started in the faculty 7 years ago to support all the researchers in the faculty. So through this center, we support young and all the mid-career, all the researchers. We provide research training support for publication. We provide core facilities, research instruments, counseling, mentoring, and also we have a technology transfer office to help researchers to commercialize their research. So for us, as people who are working in health-related professions, well-being includes both physical, psychological, social, and spiritual health. So it's not only psychological, all these factors actually contribute to the mental health issues that you have discussed so far. So to make sure that early career researchers, young researchers are happy, physically stable, psychologically stable, and having adequate and supportive social relationships so that they are geared to do what they are hoping to do and they are able to achieve their aims and objectives, an institution should provide required training, provide opportunities for funding, and should provide a conducive environment with infrastructure. And also what young researchers usually find difficult to do is financial handling. So that support also should be there from the institutions. And also there should be support to initiate collaboration and to maintain those collaborations. And also some actually go for inventions and they should be supposed to commercialize what they have produced. Apart from that, an institution should be aiming to provide support like daycare, flexible hours, especially for females who are into research, and also counseling, mentoring, and also medical care. So in the Faculty of Medicine, through the Research Promotion Facilitation Center, we provide a lot of support for young researchers in a friendly and informal way, in a non-judgmental way. And it's working out very well. We've been there for 7 years. So if you want to know more details, you can contact me. So in a situation like this, what should we do now? We're in a pandemic. And if you're an early career researcher, you are young, enthusiastic, you are very conscious about your deadlines. If you have funds, you're thinking about those deadlines, data collection. But what the institution should make you feel, and also you should feel, is that it's okay to wait. There are situations in which the best thing is to wait. And also you have to work, the institution should work with the researchers to adjust the deadlines, provide support to adjust these deadlines, and also to work together around the challenges that we face during challenging times. It's not only this pandemic, there are many challenging times, individual challenging times, and also global and national, regional challenging times. During these, the institution should work with the researchers individually to help them to handle the situations. So that institution can help to minimize the personal struggles that all the researchers have. So, so stay safe, take care, all the best for everything that you all do.
Thank you, Deshani. Thank you. Buna, we'll take your presentation now.
Thank you. So let me share my screen. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Buna, a PhD candidate in the University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia. And I'm originally from Nepal, and there I'm an academic in the Tribhuvan University Institute of Medicine. So here I like to call myself a PhD survivor, though I haven't finished the journey yet, but I'm in the last stage. So I'll be sharing in my university also, like I'm working as the PhD student representative in the school, and we are taking care of, along with the school, I'm working as a well-being of the PhD student and how to support them. And so today I'll be sharing experience of myself and my colleagues as well, whatever I have faced during my PhD journey. So first, the mental health and well-being challenges. So everyone, like, they might have heard that, like, there is a higher risk of getting anxiety or depression. Many studies have shown, like, the depression and anxiety is higher among the PhD students. So we usually talks about that should be one of the PhD topic of some of the PhD students. Maybe some of you might be interested in doing research from the audience as well in future, but there are some going on. So what might be today I'm mainly focusing about the international student, what could be the challenges that might lead to the anxiety or depression among the PhD candidate. So one is the as an international student, based on my own experience as well, when you come for the PhD abroad, so there would be the social and the academic changes. I mean, the environment would be very different compared to what we used to do in our home country or back home. So whether you come from the developing to developed country or any going from the developed to developed country also, like there is a cultural transition. And so one would be the adjustment of the personal life, like there would be the new accommodation or transportation system, even the health seeking system is different. And on the other hand, the academic environment also would be different. So that caused the loss of distress or the anxiety among the students. And balancing between these two, so in the beginning, it would be very distressful and adjustment in that new situation. And apart from that, like the expectation of the from the supervisor or your advisor, and academic expectation also put extra pressure, when there is less clarity about the expectation from the supervisor and from the PhD journey itself. So that would be, in the beginning, it would be very challenging. And for the international student, I would say the family and work-life balance is also very important, and it is also one of the challenge for the PhD journey. So whether you are doing PhD alone, leaving the family back home, or whether you are with the family, so there would be the challenge in terms of giving time to the family member and getting support from the family member. So in this challenging time, maintaining the PhD, and because in PhD research, the there would be always deadlines, or there would be always pressure in mind. It's not like, okay, you have given the exam, so you have the break. So there, I don't remember during this 4 year of journey, my mind was anytime free from the research or PhD research. So it's very difficult, and the time management, pressure for the time management, every deadline, and managing this social and personal life, and especially in case of now, in case of COVID, like we can travel to go to visit the family, and they also cannot come here, like, so it is putting the extra pressure to the PhD students or other students as well. And there would be the other stressors, like every one has the separate or unique PhD journey. So based on the what kind of supervisory support you have, what kind of social network or the friend circle you have, so that also leads to the different experience of the anxiety or the fear, or some have the very supportive environment as well. And one other thing is like the how you cope with that situation is also like the individual coping mechanism also would be different in determining the mental and well-being. So now I'm going to share my experience about how we can overcome with those challenges. So how to maintain the well-being as a PhD student or as a early career researcher. So first I would say as a PhD, avoiding the isolation would be the important aspect, because I have seen that the PhD is very isolating journey, because you would work in your own research project and you interact with your advisor. Apart from that, there is very less chances of interacting or networking or social activities. Therefore, we should be proactive in participating other activities or joining some groups like writing clubs or walking club groups, or coffee catch up with others. So social activities in the uni or outside the uni also would be very helpful to understand the culture, new culture as well, and for the adjustment. So that would be one. And one most important thing I learned after my PhD is the self-care. So in that, like practicing meditation, yoga, and other exercises really, really very helpful. So I'm saying is from my experience if I compare myself from the first year when I started my PhD and now 4th year, so it is like the scale has improved to the 8-9%, like how I manage my stress. So stress is the same, like stressors are the same, but how I handle the situation is totally different. So I would say, like in a PhD, apart from the research or other thing, I learned to do I made a habit of doing meditation, yoga, and other exercises. So for the meditation, there are very like the freely available software as well, like for the guided meditation in the like we can find like the Smiley Mind and other insight timer. So that is very helpful. And for yoga and other thing also, like that there are free video available in YouTube. So I used to go to the gym in the uni, but since COVID started, everything is changed. But still then, like we are making a group among our students and practicing the exercise regularly. So that is the really, really helpful. So it would helpful to the all the like the not only PhD, others early career researcher or anyone. So that is the most important thing. So another aspect is that as a PhD, we should avoid the imposter syndrome. So that imposter syndrome also leads to like the feeling inferior and not recognizing our success. So we should stop comparing ourselves with others, because everyone has the different journey. So everyone project is different, achievement is different. So we should not compare ourselves with the others. So that is also distressing. And maintaining the good relation with the advisor is most important thing, because in the PhD journey we have to spend our PhD experience would depend on the what kind of advisor we have, what kind of relation we have with our advisor, because that is one of the important aspects. So we should maintain good relation with advisor. We should understand what are their expectations. We should also be upfront what we expect from them. So in first year, if I remember myself, I was always quiet, and though I wanted to talk about my expectation, I never could tell. But now, like with the time and all those experience, I'm very upfront about my expectation. So it's not like we have to argue with them, but we have to, if we are evidence based, then and it would be the healthy discussion. And if we feel stress or anxiety and if we share, they would be very supportive as well. So we should not afraid of telling our fear or anxiety with them as well. And I would say we should have the positive outlook to our life, or we should celebrate the small success, and we should not have the high expectation from our PhD journey as well. Someday there would be the failure, someday we'll get the rejection of the papers, or some days we cannot write. That's okay, especially in this context. So if we would not be productive one day, that's okay, we can do next day. So we should appraise ourselves as well. So we should not judge ourselves. So that is also one of the good thing for maintaining well-being. And being flexible is most important, especially during COVID. I have seen even my PhD project has been affected because I could not collect the data due to this COVID, and some of the PhD student project has to change completely as well. So at that time, if we are not flexible, then there will be very high distress or anxiety among ourselves. So we should be very flexible. We should have a backup plan, and we should not hesitate to seek the services. Like there are various services, social supports or the counseling services, as Professor Richard also mentioned. There are lots of support available inside the university, and we should form a group. We should share our stress or experience with other PhD. They would be very helpful, and at that time we'll feel that, oh, I'm not the alone suffering, there are others as well. So that would be very reassuring. So I feel like we should seek the support system available in the university and outside the network, and also help others to support. I guess so. These are my experience, and hope it will be helpful to others as well. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Buna. Thank you so much. Have you seen the comment section? I think you should open the chat box and see how many thumbs up you have. Well done. Thank you. So next we'll take Aurelia. Aurelia, are you still there? I think you're muted. No, you're not muted, but I can't hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm just going to talk about our work, the one that we do. I'm an other aid steward as well, but I also run a mentorship program which started in 2016, but actively 2018. And one of the reasons, like most of you who have already started such initiatives, was to build a community for researchers, and more or less also for me was to also grow research skills and also bring the visibility of African scholarship. So one of the activities, the main activities we do is we run research clubs. Right now we have almost 550 something members. They are online clubs. But before COVID, we used to have physical meetings, because I think also physical meetings are one way you build a community better. So we would meet on Saturdays, twice a month, have tea and have a mentorship session on research. So that was really, really useful in building a lot of bonding. So even when COVID happened, we were not strangers in the club. And then also our approach to mental health is twofold. One, we have integrated mental health in how we do mentorship, but also we have a specific mental health program. We started with a survey to really understand what are some of the issues that the students are grappling with. Just to mention, our club, we thought we were only targeting students, but we also found lecturers who are desiring community, and also researchers who leave university, like PhD students, and do not have a community, and they are consultants, so they also join. So we realize that most of them are really struggling with not just academia, but also personal issues. And for me, it is very clear, you cannot separate the personal and the professional. Both of them intersect in yourself at the same time, and they have an effect on how you experience research. So that recognition was very important. So one of the activities we do is what we call the intersection of me. This is an activity to bring to the awareness of the particular researcher about how many intersections they have in themselves. So we tell them to just go through your life. You're a mother, especially for African scholars, you are likely to be a parent, you're likely to be paying your fees, you're likely to be an employee, you're a community member, and all these really affect how you show up as a researcher. So this awareness has really been important, because some people even say, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had all these things going on, and now they can begin to see how to prioritize. Then there was one of our members, she's called Joyce Wangari. She started a program called Study Smart. We have quite a big group of psychologists who are researchers in our group, and they came together and decided to hold monthly mental health sessions on topics like procrastination, stress management, how to deal with difficult relationships, especially with supervisors. And then from these sessions, we would have group therapy sessions, physical group therapy sessions, and people would really talk about their issues and get psychological support. Then we also have activities like coffee dates. Normally, as the founder of the clubs, I like meeting students and knowing them a bit more personally. So sometimes they would organize a coffee date. We just go talk about your paper. Sometimes they also invite us when they're celebrating a good moment, graduations, we attend. Also having, we did also mentorship sessions in the garden, in the park, so as to remove this brick and mortar idea of research has always to happen in a brick and mortar place. So we call it ecotherapy research. So just talking about research, but in a less informal way. Then right now we are having what we are calling virtual hangouts every month. It's just a lunchtime cocktail where members come and talk about their papers and really get good support from the others. Then I think I'd like to mention that some of the common mental health issues that we found many people dealing with are difficult relationship, not just the supervisor, but at home. We've had people who've gotten divorced, they've lost children, they've lost work. There are quite a number of them are also looking for employment. There's also difficulty in time management, a lot of self-doubt. Then there's also a lot of hierarchy in academia. And because I'm very happy for this session today, finally saying that, because I think we can come together and be a voice that can really create very holistic mental health programs for academia, wherever we are or together, or we can just create a movement so that our academic spaces are not places where students experience violence, but places where they grow into their full potential. So I think I'll finish there and just say kudos to everyone.
Thank you very much, Aurelia. And thank you to all our panelists for your contributions. We'll go to the Q&A session now, and then we'll take questions. And I've not seen any question in the chat box. Josie, have you seen any? More like comments.
So if you'd like to ask a question in this section of the webinar, please either raise your hand, which is something you can find in the participants panel, or ask it in the chat box. We're looking forward to hearing what you'd like to know.
But while we're waiting for the questions to come, I'm going to direct a lot of questions at you, Richard, because you seem to be the only one who's in the doctoral position right now. Okay, you and Dilshani, but because of the program you're running, I'm just curious, how do students find out about the Ally Network when they enroll for the PhD program?
It's widely advertised on campus. There are regular events focusing on the LGBT community where everyone is invited, not just that community. Yeah, so it's very open, and everyone is welcome to join and join in these events, and everyone on campus is encouraged to actually join the network. And so what you need to do to join the network is sit through a few training sessions, and well, not sit through, actively engage clearly with the trainer. At the moment, that's done online. You know, as I said during my presentation, I learned a few new things, a few terms that I was not aware were denigrating, and so it's actually quite good to do these things.
Yes. But before I leave you, I've been following this group who talk a lot about building psychological safety in everything. Their main focus is usually about organizations, business, but it applies everywhere. And they talked about that there are 4 stages, and that the first stage is learner safety. That you must feel, sorry, second stage is learner safety. First of all, you must feel you're included, and then you feel you're safe to learn. I'm just wondering if you have people who've come in who haven't exactly been openly LGBT before they came on campus. And naturally, if they're not openly LGBT, that means technically they're not psychologically safe. That's why they're not openly LGBT.
Yeah.
How do you deal with such people when they come? Because of course, if they come into the Ally network and for some reason they meet people there, it's almost like, okay, so now people know I'm LGBT.
Yeah, no one is forced to join. It's completely up to the individual as to the extent to which they want to be involved. If they don't want to come out, then they're perfectly fine not to join. So there's no pressure. It's completely fine. And as I said, we provide the allies would in principle be people who could provide confidential advice or at least a sounding board. We have safe spaces on campus that are specifically set up for people from this community. And if anything untoward happens, then that's cracked down on very significantly because that's illegal, and students might be expelled if they do something against the community. And well, I've not heard of any staff member doing this.
All right, thank you very much. Then, Dilshani, how do staff members, students key into your program? Dilshani?
Yes. Now, since the center is formalized and established as a unit in the university, we have, ways of getting. Now we can use the same university email addresses. Now for the networking institutions, we are networking with other institutions. We are contacting all the academics through the head of the institution. So it's more formalized, but all PhD students, academic staff, they know that I'm available for if they want to contact with an issue or a problem. So they personally call me or contact me or email me through the email of the center or other personal email. But this is now established and formalized in the faculty, so it's running with the administrative support. Initially, when I was starting, it was difficult. I had to convince people to get involved, and then everyone realized the importance of this because as a PhD student who completed 12 years ago, and also after coming to my country, I realized all these issues that we discussed today. Now, then I was thinking of a way to help them and got a group together and started this. Now it's running as a faculty center, so all have access to it.
All right, thank you. Next, I'll go to Abimbola. Abimbola, have you seen, what are the frequent complaints you hear from members of your community that are related to mental health?
Well, thank you, Dr. Zainab. Mainly, because there's still a culture of silence around mental health, particularly in Africa. So you will not get queries about how I think I have a mental health issue. You will probably hear things like, I've been stressed, I'm tired, I feel depressed, I feel lethargic, I don't want to work anymore. So you don't really hear, I think it's mental health, simply because one, the stigma is still there. Secondly, it's like physician heal yourself. You can't diagnose yourself of having a mental health issue. There must be somewhere to go. There must be someone to talk to, someone to tell you, okay, these symptoms, this might be it. Why don't you see a doctor? There's something very significant. I think it was Natasha that said, the systems are not just there. They're not so mental. I listened to our statistics. One for every 1,000 people. We don't have a lot of experts that deal with mental health issues. So where do people actually go? And most importantly, people are not open to sharing that I think I have a mental health problem. So I hope we can keep the conversation going till it evolves to that point that people feel safe enough to share that these symptoms I think I have, I think I need to see a mental health specialist. Thank you, Dr. Zainab.
Thank you very much. We have somebody was trying to ask a question. Dr. Salisu, are you still there?
Yes, I am here. Yes, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm just wondering, I'm asking the panel now, is it absurd for somebody um, after the person must have completed his or her PhD to aspire to change career entirely? For example, let's say I finished with PhD in cell biology and genetics, and maybe in the course of trying to I aspire to do something much more better, much more practicable that you can actually apply and touch larger community, and you found interest in STEM, and you want to change your career entirely to STEM. Is it absurd? That is one. Then two, if it is not, has any of them come across any PhD holder as an early career scientist that has walked up to them either in a mentorship program like Aurelia mentioned that they're doing at our end, or at the ally network, maybe somebody after attaining that level of education and still want to change career and something much more passionate this time around? Is it absurd? If it's not absurd, how did they deal with it? Thank you.
Okay. So maybe we should start from Aurelia, then we'll take anybody else who wants to address it. Aurelia, do you have an experience in that somebody who's either completed a PhD program or in the middle of it and decides to pivot or is thinking of pivoting? Do you have any experience with that? Aurelia?
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Real right answer, but I'll say, of course, once you have finished your PhD, you've made quite a big investment in terms of time and energy in a particular subject. I think if you're feeling compelled enough to feel that your interests are in something else, then I would say go for it. Maybe what you could look for something that is also interlinked, because I've seen sometimes as a person who's changed my career, I was doing nursing, now I went to study development work. That sometimes you find a lot of interlinkages in the new thing that you take up. So you could also take something that's a bit, but really feel compelled enough.
We're having problems with Aurelia's connection. Maybe we'll come to her right after. I have a question for the panelists.
Zainab, I have just something to add, if that's okay, to that
please
question.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Thanks
please go
so
ahead.
much, Dr. Zainab. Yeah, I actually changed my whole field. So the exact story that you talked about is actually me. So I did a master's in immunology and infectious diseases, very lab-based. And then I transitioned to an interdisciplinary field of digital health, machine learning, and anatomy. So completely different from what I was doing. And it was a really hard decision to make, and I had to consult a lot of people. So my recommendation is, when I finished it, I had the opportunity to try the field a little bit. I was lucky to get the scholarship to try it for 3 months, and I got to see that I liked it, I was good at it, and I also got to talk to other people in that field. And Visibility STEM Africa is launching their new website. So on our new website, you can go to our members page, hopefully, and there'll be a filter function where you can search for country, you can search career level, and also field. So a person could search for the field, see someone who's there and connect with them, because I think there's a lot of value with talking to someone in that space beforehand and even experiencing it. You could email them and be like, hey, I'm just interested in giving it a try to see how I go. And, you know, it can be really scary, but it's, you know, such a rewarding experience if you end up doing something that you're actually passionate about, rather than just continuing in this career just because we have social pressure to do so. So that would be my advice. And hey, I'm happy to connect with that person if they have any questions about it. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Natasha. I agree with you. It's been mentioned, it's been mentioned that usually people, when they surveyed people on their deathbeds, one of the frequent, something that's recurrent is the things they wished they had done before they died. So I like your saying, one, try it out first, speak with somebody, and please don't leave with regrets. Very important for mental health. Thank you. Richard was going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the earlier contributions on changing fields. Once you've done a PhD, you have become an expert in a niche area. That doesn't mean that that's the only thing you can do. You've gained a lot of skills during that period and the period prior to your PhD. So perhaps if you're really passionate about moving fields, take a step back, make an inventory of the skills that you have to offer, the transferable skills, and see how they would apply in another fairly niche area in the field you would like to move into, and see where the match might be.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I have a question for the panelists. What is the place of building resilience in individuals generally? And again, the need to balance it. Because it's something else to have resilience, and it's something else going the other extreme and being Pollyanna-ish about everything.
Okay, is it okay to speak, Dr.
Yes,
Zainab?
please. Yes,
okay.
Please.
Well, I think that resilience, we develop it, we become a product of our own circumstances and our own upbringing. So resilience is if I don't develop resilience, like sink or swim, I have to get it. I have to take it. I have to make it count for me or make it work for me. So trying to maintain a balance, then I'm not sure if I have that your balance question, but what I know is without resilience, I'm not sure my head will stay above water. So a lot of things, part of what makes doing a PhD in Africa so, what makes it work so impactful is that you have dozens of people that are also looking for the same thing you're looking for. The support, the network, the connection, and most importantly, somebody that has been through that I can tell them, yes, it's just a stage, it will pass. So yes, resilience becomes that thing that keeps you practically hanging there until you finish and do something else. I hope I was able to help with that.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else?
So Zainab, there's a couple of questions in the chat, which, unless anyone, would like to add to the last question before we jump into something new.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to add to what Ambibola said. I completely resonated with your answer. I think resilience is an interesting thing because for you to be resilient, it probably means you have to have experienced something that's probably not great. And sometimes, like for me, particularly during my master's degree, I struggled a lot being often I was the only African and often the only Black person most of the time for 2 years. And it really made me feel very isolated, and also being one of the first people in my family to go into the path of doing STEM. And so at the time it was super challenging, and in the moment it sucked, but after the fact, after I got through it, I appreciated it because it did build resilience and it made me more prepared for my PhD. So now when I go through rough times, my PhD, I'm a bit more able to cope with it in a better way because I went through that. But at the same time, I don't think it should be a necessity that people have to go through struggle in their journey, which is part of the reason why we created Visibility STEM, so that people don't have to go through the same challenges that I, for example, went through to my master's, and not having to let people have to build so much resilience in order to have a good and fulfilling career. So I think there is a balance of how it can be a good thing, but also it's not necessary for you in your journey. And it's great if you're able to have support systems that just allow you to go through it in a healthy way.
Thank you, Natasha. We have two questions here and they're related, so I'll just take them together. One of them from Christopher Largi said, I want to ask, how do I start such a community, such a support community in my department? I'm Christopher from Ghana. Then next to that, we have from Dr. Salisu, how can I start a mentorship program like Aurelia? Aurelia, would you like to start?
Thank you, Zainab. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry about my network is a bit crazy. I think those are good questions. And I think there's no one answer to how to start a mentorship program, because it really depends on where you're located. If you're within a university, or like me, I'm not in a university, so I'm really working from outside the university, but then collaborating with members of faculty and also students. So maybe the answer I can give now is we have quite a number of mentorship models, and I have a very good resource that I could share with you, which was done by a Word mentorship scheme. They've been able to document how to start a mentorship program. So I could share that resource because it can now get you thinking on the type of mentorship programs we have online. We have, do you want a long-term one? Do you want a blended one? So there's quite some literature on that could also guide you on that, on the process. But I'm also willing to share experiences, because there is also what is not documented, but what you experienced as someone who's founded these programs, and some of the things that on hindsight now I learn and I implement. So I'm willing to talk about that with them, but also share the resource as well.
Thank you. And if they want to get in contact with you, Andy posted a link to Ada Africa. Are you on social media? Are you, where else can they get in contact with you?
I'm very old school. I'm on LinkedIn, and I don't use a lot of Twitter. I'm learning. So on LinkedIn, let me write my details.
Thank you very much. Dushani, how can somebody start your kind of work, your kind of support system, if they're starting out?
As Aurelia said, it depends on where you are. If you are in an institution, it's easier, right? Because you have the support system, you have the administration. The only thing is that the one who wants to start needs to sit down and get all the thoughts together. What sort of support you are trying to provide, what areas you're trying to cover, and how you are going to set about it. Because usually universities, they expect a write-up before, like a proposal. And once you put it to the committees, you'll get approval and you'll get some support, funding. But main thing is people. You have to get resources. You need to get senior people who are willing to be mentors. And then you have to target a group who are seeking support. So we do that now. The writing club that we introduced in Colombo about 7 years ago, for that we got support from INESP. We got funding as well. So that helped a lot. So you need to have funding, people, and acceptance from the institution that you're trying to start the program in. And then you have to plan. We have actually INESP has published how we started writing club, so you can have access to those documents also. So the main thing is to develop trust and get the support of administrators, seniors, as well as the people who are seeking your support. So that once you've got all that in, it'll flow.
Thank you, thank you. And are you old school like Aurelia? How can they get in touch with you if they want to see what work you've done and learn from your work?
Yes, I'm not that much online. I haven't put anything regarding this because I was focusing on the institutions in Sri Lanka. But I have my email address, my faculty email address, as well as my personal email address, which I can share. so that anyone can write to me and I will share my experience.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Shuria posted a question. Richard has started to answer it, but I think I'll just say it again here. He's asking how to create well-being at online teaching activities. Kindly give some suggestions.
I'm happy to get started on that one.
Thank you.
So I teach medical students and undergraduate students anatomy and histology. So I've had to do a lot of online teaching this year, and it has been quite hectic. So what I found helped the most is being open and honest. So sometimes I just start a Zoom session and say, okay, it has been a day, like 2020 sucks, and just have a conversation about how 2020 has been for them. Check in with them. How are they going with assessments? Is everything okay? All that sort of thing. So building rapport, starting a conversation. So every time I start a Zoom session, I check in. So that has been super helpful. I've done these things where I've, been creative about virtual backgrounds. So I'll share one with all of you that has worked really well at the start of the year due to the pandemic. And this is the best one. In Australia, people just decided to buy loads of toilet paper, and this worked so well with the students because it started a conversation and it was super helpful. As well, I started this like best meme challenge, so just trying to make things a little bit more fun, getting them more involved. That has been helpful, and like Richard said, actually taking breaks and allowing for breaks is super helpful. Increasing student engagement, so it's not just you talking the whole time. I think Tasha often uses the Mentimeter app, and that's super helpful. If no one has used it before, you can get them to do polls, and I think Zoom also has polls as well to get them involved. So that's just a few things that have been helpful for me during this year.
Thank you, Tasha. We're gradually coming to the end of our webinar. So if you have questions, there's still a bit of time to post your questions. And whilst we're waiting for more questions, there's so many support systems that we've talked about and represented here, particularly those that apply to low and middle income countries where there's a very huge need for this. And I'm wondering if there's a way, have you thought of a way where you could get people to be more aware of your work? For example, somebody who's enrolled in a local university in Nigeria and needs the support, how do they hear about you? Richard has told us that once you come into the university, his group is very well advertised, so you're free to join. So how can we do that? So now I'm directing this at VSA and DPIA.
Sure, I can take that question. So one of the things that we've been doing as an organization is trying to partner with other organizations and initiatives that are on the continent that do have that reach in local communities. So for example, we have partnerships with some organizations in Nigeria that directly work with schools, with young women, with girls. And through doing that, we're able to extend our network, and then we create resources, we create content, and then we share it with these people, and they're able to then share it on. So I think for us, it's been really important. Our community is not only just the members, but it's also making partnerships. So I think it's been really cool as well being involved in this, because now we know of some new initiatives that hopefully we can partner with as well. Because I think through working together, we're able to reach more people and share our resources. So I think for us, that's been really cool, and it's allowed us into spaces in Tanzania, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Nigeria. We have people kind of across Africa we talk to on a regular basis who have this access. So I think that's that's a big way that we do it. Collaboration and partnerships.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Riding on what Natasha has said, really for us, we found out that we're all based in different countries in Africa, and some people are not even based in Africa, but most of our research is centered in Africa. So for a local university in Nigeria, the drive on Facebook is huge. We have a lot of members there, and some of them are actually studying in Nigerian universities. We also have members that study in universities, not Nigeria, but also other African countries. So like I said, being here, collaboration, partnership is key. It opens us to new horizons. We're able to get access to a lot of other facilities for our members, and hopefully keep on knowledge building and sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, our panelists, author aid community, and all participants. I'm sure you agree with me that this is good conversation that we need to carry forward. And with that, I think I'll hand over to Andy.
Okay, thank you very much, Zainab, and thank you to the speakers for joining us today, and some fantastic presentations and tips, and for the questions that you've all been asking as well. So we're recording the session, and we'll obviously share the link with you to watch back. But also just one more thing to add is that it'd be great to continue this discussion, and we've shared some contact details from the various organisations mentioned, but we've also got a discussion group. And in fact, one of the speakers who couldn't make it today, Petra Boynton, said that she'd be very happy to share any more resources and mental health resources after the session for anybody who has additional questions. And I think that goes for everyone here. It would be, if anyone here would like to share any of their resources, any tips, any contact details, we've got a group in Google Groups, the author aid discussion group. It would be great to continue the discussion if you're able to log in there and join. I'll also share the link in the chat box now. So if you'd like to continue the discussion, please go to our Google Groups group. But otherwise, apart from that, just wanted to say thank you very much to everyone for joining, and it's been a really great session. Thank you to all our panelists and our author aid stewards and everyone who's joined and asked questions.